Jenny. I'm an artist and illustrator, and I specialise in drawing animals and nature. This tutorial is going to take you through the basics of sketching with a range of different pencils and should take approximately 30 minutes. Today I've chosen to draw a little owl. He's actually a real owl and I've met him a few times. He goes by the name of Titch. I've chosen because he has bags of character and that comes through in the reference image I've chosen, but he also has lots of tones and textures and really patterned feathers, so that's why I've gone for him, because it's a good challenge. The set of pencils that you should get should be nice and soft, so they'll be in the B category. It goes from 2B, well it goes from B, 2B, all the way to 8B. So the 2Bs and the Bs are the hardest of the sort of soft category, whereas 8B is super soft, and that's for all of your lovely kind of shading and your really dark tones in your drawing. So you want to use a range of the pencils to get the whole variety of tones. You'll need some lovely drawing paper as well. So often I choose 100 GSM or higher just because it's nice and thick, good for absorbing all of your pencil marks. Always good to keep some rubbers on hand, always useful for clearing up unwanted lines. A sharpener, keeping your pencils nice and sharp, always essential. And sometimes you can use these blending sticks as well. They're not essential, but they are sometimes useful for getting a nice gradient with your tone. Okay, so now we begin. So to start, I'm going to use a sort of middling pencil. This is a 4B. And I'm going to begin by sketching just really simple shapes, just to map out the areas of the bird. I often use an upside down egg shape to get the shape of the wing. That's really useful. If you can see here, these are really, really soft, faint lines. And they're just making sure I map out the areas where the bird is. It's almost like putting together a little plan on your paper, because you don't want to go in for the details until you know you've got your composition right, you've got your proportions right. It just saves disappointment later in your drawing. So sometimes how I cross-check my proportions, I use a line technique. So I draw, not literally, but I draw an imaginary line kind of going vertically and horizontally, and just make sure that the proportions all match. So all of the points of your bird on that line match how it is on your reference image. So you want to map out the face of the owl, and so owls are really good. They've got a really definitive two facial discs all around their eyes and a lovely beak as well. So when you look at the owl, you'll be able to see how I've just mapped out the facial features there. So you see two sort of ovals for the facial discs and a sort of diamond shaped for the beak, because when the beak is looking at you, you'll only see this bit, whereas if you're looking at the profile view, the beak will be curved. So now I'm pretty happy with where everything is. I'm quite confident with my proportions of the owl. So I'm going to change to a softer pencil, and I'm just going to bring out some of the areas of shading. So where the owl is darkest, so under the wings, under the tail, that kind of thing, just to give it a bit more three-dimensionality. So I've gone for a nice 6B this time. So owls always have this really heavy brow. It always makes them look really angry. You can see there that I've started to pick out the darker areas, the areas of tone. So now we're going to start with a few more details. And for that I'll need a harder pencil, so I'm going to go for a B. You want to just keep taking a moment to step back and have a little look at your drawing just to make sure everything works. It's very easy to get lost in it, but it's good to keep an idea of how it looks overall. You can see that I've picked out the areas there with the facial features. I've used my pencil quite hard just to make sure that they're really defined, because they're quite strong lines. And also what's important when you're drawing the features of any animal is to not just draw the beak or the eye, but draw everything that's around the beak and the eye as well. It just makes them look like they belong to the face more. So what I'm doing now is starting to add in some of the patterned feathers, and I'm always keeping my pencil going in the same direction as the feathers, because that's showing not just the shape but also the texture at the same time. As you can see here, I'm not afraid to press on quite hard with the pencils. What I want to do is make sure that there's a lot of contrast between the white paper and my pencil mark. So I think that shows a sense of drama, but also a sense of confidence as well. It just makes the drawing more exciting to look at. I've added a little bit of white, that circle of white there in the eyes is really important, because it sort of it shows a reflection, and that makes any animal or anything that you're drawing look a lot more alive. So now I'm going to switch pencils again. I'm going to use a nice soft one, so I've gone for a 5B this time, and what I'm going to do is start to softly sketch the areas where the feathers are, and for this I'm going to use quite sort of free gestural marks and just have a bit of fun with it really, but always following the shape of those feathers. By contrast, the owl's wing feathers and tail feathers are very rigid and structured, so the two together, the soft breast feathers and the structured wing feathers, are a nice contrast. So now probably is a good time to take out some of my sort of sketchy planning marks. So I'm just going to use my rubber to do that, just tidy it up a little bit. Also, if you're using very soft pencils, it's quite easy to smudge with your hand. You might want to take those smudges out as well. That's good for now. So I'm going to carry on with the texture of the feathers. This is the bit that might take a little bit of time, but be patient and just kind of build up your marks as you go along. Lots of repetitive marks in areas where there's a very dark patch or an area of colour. And yeah, just be patient with it, and you should start to see the drawing kind of come alive at this point. It's a good idea when you're building up your tone to always leave some areas of white in the drawing. So I can see that the light is hitting Titch here on the top of his head, on the tip of his wing, and on the beak as well. So I'm always going to leave those whites so they show up as a highlight. So now I'm going to go back to my harder pencil, the B, and I'm actually going to give it a sharpen, just so I can get all of those really fine feathers around the eyes. Yeah, I want it to be really sharp. So now I'm going to do a bit of work on the feet, and still using my hard pencil, I'm going to start to put the details of the feet in. So it's a really good idea when you're drawing birds to always look at the angle of the feet and how they come from the body and meet the ground or the branch or whatever they're standing on. It's actually an interesting angle, so you might want to check that before you crack on with this part. This bird's got nice long talons, even though it's quite a little bird. And quite furry feet as well, so still keeping all those lovely details, all those fine hairs. You give him a nice branch to sit on, just so he's not floating in midair. Also good to give a little bit of shadow as well, just to show that that bird has gravity and has a weight. You can see just the foot section there. And for the last part, I'm going to just keep working into those feathers. Be careful not to go too far. It's a good idea to, again, keep stepping back, looking at your drawing. If it looks finished, don't do any more. It's good to not overdo things. And sometimes when I would like to have a bit of a different texture on my page, I take a soft pencil and use it on its side, and so sometimes that gives me a really nice sort of just a different look to my pencil marks. So I think we're just about done with our owl drawing. I'm really happy with this portrait of Titch. The last part I think I'm going to do is just go around with this blending tool and just see if I can just get a nice smooth gradient on the edges of the feathers. I don't do it very much, but it's just a nice little thing to do right at the very end. Yeah, I think I'm pretty happy with that. Here's Titch the owl, looking nice and angry. Now what I'm going to do is just give it a sign, and I hope you enjoyed it. Have a lovely day.